meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got this beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. The cattle are standing like statues. The cattle are standing like statues. They won't turn their heads when they see me walk by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got this beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, the sounds of the earth are like music. The sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy, it don't miss a tree. And in a weeping willow is laughing at me. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got this beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. If you're on Facebook, just know that I don't see your comments, but I very often go back through to check that out later and just read and acknowledge you and stuff. I just could never get my Restream chat to work. We are on D Live, and I think we might be on Twitch. I know it streams to YouTube and Twitter, and as long as that's still available to us. But I am so thankful that you're tuning in, and thank you for the compliment. This little CD was that I showed you guys. Where did it go? Look at me. Look at me. It's called Interior Design, and it is just me on piano, vocal, guitar, vocal. But I had special guests. I had an incredible oboe player. I had an incredible vibe player. I had an incredible sax player. Incredible, I mean, really top-notch players from all over the world that were gathered in Boston. Drummer, percussionist, and so it was like super airy and unplugged. And my thought at the time was, can I even do this? And is the beauty of the song enough? Let's see. I've got Bob Koger on oboe, Don Richardson on flute and soprano sax, Peter Contreras on bass, Natalie Dietrich on vibraphone, Rodrigo Benelli on percussion, and Casper Gildenso on electric guitar. He did an incredible guitar solo on this thing called I Never Dreamed. So I just want you to know that we've all been very, very underestimated in the whole kingdom of God and the warfare that we're in. is based on the enemy's pride and underestimating the power of people who refuse to let go. God has always chosen the weak things of the world and the foolish things to shame the wise. Now, we don't want to be just super duper weak and foolish just because. I'm saying he has a way of elevating people to authority who, in their own appearance and where they come from, are probably the least likely. Even when he picks somebody super brilliant or noodly and incredible and gifted, he has a way of taking us down to the studs so that we are so aware of our own foolishness and our own weakness and our own emptiness that then he can take that and shape it into these incredible weapons. For example, this album that I did terrified. I did completely terrified. I had done a couple albums on the West Coast, but I had somehow managed to, even having done that, to wind up being somebody who was more and more terrified over time rather than less and less. I had some great credits to my name. I had a degree in classical guitar performance. I'd done some cool things. I'd written since I was kids. I had a kind of a cool bio. But what I wasn't letting anybody know was the degree to which I was tormented by fear and how that began to shave away at my mindset and actually create a narrower and a narrower world where there were all these things that I wouldn't do or that I had to do. You know, it's fear and panic over a long time will make you into sort of a superstitious type of person, even if you don't know it. It's like, I can't perform there unless this is there and unless I've had this and that, and I have to have all the ducks in a row so that I'm safe and I can do this thing. And then it just gets more and more narrow. Fear never gives up. It just wants more more pieces of your mind, your history, your thoughts, your behavior to control. And so when the Lord spoke to me sitting down there on the other side, and he said, Julie, it's time. It's your time. I knew that he meant I had to deal with the real root that I was hiding of the terrorizing performance anxiety and stage fright that literally paralyzed me to the point where I couldn't even play for one person in a room. The terror was so great that I would lose control and that I would blank out. I wouldn't know. I would be completely disoriented, and that it would prove that I had nothing to offer anyway. So when the Lord said that to me, I knew what he meant, and I knew and it scared me, and I had a full-on fight or flight reaction in my body. But somehow I just said to him, look, we've walked together long enough. I know that I can trust you. So just let's do this one step at a time. Don't leave me, but let's do this one step at a time. Like he would leave me. You know what I mean? And out of that grew Dream Farm events because I needed people to listen. So I provided a venue for the best jazz musicians in the world to come and play, and then I made myself open for them, and I also asked them to collaborate with me, so my bio grew of the musicians that I actually got to work with. But there was a time along the way when, this was in 2008, so it was probably about 2007 when I started to get free. I did this album, and I did it scared, I did it terrified, and I was in the studio, and I recorded most of the tracks separate. I would do the guitar or the piano, but I was being observed by an incredible Peter Contreras, an incredible jazz bass player known all over the Boston area, and I practiced my little guts out. I had started learning what it took to overcome my social anxiety, my terror, and what I was going to do. And I had to keep my hands on the piano. I had to keep my hands practicing and moving and reading. It took a lot of emotional energy to really start to get a handle on this thing. But I'll tell you, it took less emotional energy in the long run than living with fear, because fear will just completely drain you. Panic, anxiety will drain you so much that that you think you're in the clear because you avoid certain circumstances, so you feel relief. But what happens is this buildup, this massive, like, opposite of a generator inside you, just a sucking sound sucks your energy out. So even though it takes a lot of energy to to overcome a core panic or fear issue in your life, over time it is way less expensive than living with it. And that's the truth, because they come back to bite you and they take more and more of your identity and your worldview, right? And your thinking. So the track you heard was one of the first ones where I re-engaged with the piano, which was my primary instrument as a child, and and the instrument on which I had my worst and most terrifying stage fright experiences, because I wasn't taught as a kid how to memorize or how to learn music. Most teachers allowed kids to basically have muscle memory, right? And just your fingers memorizing something is the least secure memory unless it's attached to some deep um, emotional responses. Like, for example, muscle memory is great if you fight. If you fight in an adrenalized state, for example, in a self-defense class, it actually imprints it on your memory. But that's because you have a strategy for winning, and you're actually fighting, protecting yourself, and gaining a skill. So you could learn muscle memory on the piano in an adrenalized state, but you'd have to do it in a way that actually provided you with skills and a way to overcome, and not just panic settling on you in a recital, and which it did for me. So I had these recitals growing up, and this is all going to tie up for you and what we're dealing with right now in our country. Um, and so I had these terrible, didn't take many of them, but these blank out things in recitals that just so terrorized me that I learned to believe that if I was in live performance settings that I could die, because that's what it felt like. That's what the shame felt like. That's what the experience felt like. And I felt so completely out of control, and I hated what my body did, and I think I hated myself. If I had all these dreams of being a musician, and instead, what did I do? Fall apart in front of people. You know, it's humiliating. It's very humiliating. Anyway, so when I began to overcome the fear, I had to pull out the piano again, and I had to learn to play. So the piece that you heard, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," was me engaging the piano, bringing back my piano skills. There was a time when all I did was play piano and do piano vocal, and I was scared to play guitar. I was afraid I would never play the guitar again. Then after that, I began to pick up the guitar and claim that back. So that is actually my primary instrument, and I could play piano. I just don't enjoy it the same way. But it was like the Lord had me go back and plant a flag of victory on a grave of defeat to claim the piano back. And this album where I'm playing the piano is actually sort of a golden benchmark for me. The way that I played, the quality of the playing, even though there were punch-ins and fixes, this was kind of like, aha, I danced on the grave of many failures by the way I was able to play on this album and the way it turned out. And but I did it scared, and I went into a setting that was terrorizing for me in many ways, and in this studio. But I began to learn how to take things back. And this piece, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," became my opener at a number of Dream Farm events, because I was able to, because I wrote it and arranged it, and the way that I conceived of the music was something that worked for my brain and how I heard things and what I could do. And so I began to claim back my ears, my skills, and things that were doable for me. And so it actually wound up to be a really beautiful little arrangement of "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." And also, it was a place where I staked my ground, and I said, even the title, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," I got this beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. You know, I'm taking back, I'm moving out of the darkness, I'm moving into the light, and claiming my own sound and space. And it wound up becoming a very, very powerful opener. And as you know, when you're dealing with any kind of fear, the opener is super important. It's how you get in front of the people, and how you calm yourself, and how you come into a state of concentration and awareness, and stop being afraid of your body and all of the voices in your head, and actually start enjoying the process of bringing to the world what you have to bring to the world. So, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" became that. It became a clarion call to call me out of darkness, to prophesy a new morning, to prophesy a new experience. And I would do that to open my sets, because something about that piece felt doable to me, and it could help me settle, right? And so here where we are, there's a thing where we're resettling, we're redefining, we're taking back our job. I still absolutely believe Donald Trump is our legitimate president. I president. I believe that we are under the regime of an illegitimate government right now. And I believe God's going to do something incredible beyond all we could ask or think. And I don't believe that's just some kind of hyper-religious bubble. There are things happening that defy logic and give us important clues. And this is how God works. And this is why I want to say I love to be underestimated. And I think we're being underestimated right now. I think God is being underestimated. I think prophetic voices are being underestimated. I think our 45th president, soon to be our 19th, if you know what that means, is being highly underestimated. Jesus was underestimated. All of the people of God, David was underestimated. Everybody who wound up being a game changer was completely underestimated, mocked, laughed at, and the enemy arrayed his giants in an attempt to intimidate. And yes, and so it is actually a very strategic place to maintain the high ground while being underestimated. So we stay in this high ground of what has God said, what is His truth, what is our identity, what is His plan for America, what is His character, how did we get to this point in this place? It's like the Maccabees. The Maccabees held the high ground in the mountains as the Greco-Syrian armies came after them. They were in the high ground, but they were highly underestimated because they were just one small vagabond family that refused to submit to the paganism taking over their temple. And yet they were really smart about how they staked out the ground and how they fought. This is where we need to be. Go ahead. Allow people to underestimate us. Allow the enemy to underestimate you. Allow relationships and people to laugh and scoff and mock, because people project onto others who they are, right? So, and by the way, did you notice that our current illegitimate leader projected onto our 45th president exactly what he was planning to do? Did you notice that? That's a beautiful strategy. Accuse your enemies of doing what you want to do, what you plan to do. To steal, to be illegitimate, to question foreign interference, a whole deal. Accuse your enemies of exactly what you plan to do, so you try to get the ground and put them on the back foot, so to speak, make people in a defensive posture when that's exactly what you plan to do. That's exactly what hey, Greg Harvey, that's exactly what the enemy always does. He projects onto us the evil he plans to do and makes us defend a position that he's actually telegraphing what he plans to do. This is what the people have done in the earth through movies and media and programming and mind control. They always project out what they plan to do, and they get us to buy in. Well, isn't it surprising have you found it ironic that everything that they accused 45 of doing is exactly to the T, exactly their plan? I think that's funny. I think that's interesting. And I think that those people who are so completely compelled by that level of self-deception and programming to deceive others tend to miss the obvious point that they are underestimating, especially when you realize that in the face of what appears to be loss, we're not putting on pink vagina hats and screaming. We're not. And we're not coming unglued, and we're not vicious and ugly, at least not openly. We need to be way more kind among each other. But that's disequilibrium, and that's actually probably works to our favor. When an enemy thinks he's really got you, and you're really screwed now, I got you, you're messed up, you're infighting, you're a loser, you guys, go eat crap, the whole thing. When the enemy is so busy projecting that onto us, and we do see like a disequilibrium and chaos in a time of surprise, that actually works. That actually works toward that taking that high ground. The more the enemy underestimates us, and 45 and those working with him, or whatever the plan is, the better it is for us. So all of our upset and our whining and our confusion and our giving up and blaming this person or that prophetic voice actually creates a fog, a mist, a fog of war that can be very effective as God says, you know what? I haven't given up. I mean, he allowed it among the disciples. And yeah, exactly. He allowed it among the disciples. I mean, the people with, now we don't really hear much from John. He seemed to, I have a feeling John was kind of holding his own counsel, but there are others who were terrified. There was Thomas, there was Peter, there were, that I'm sure, there was infighting and confusion, and they were all hiding up in a room together, and we must have been lied to, this was a psyop, oh my gosh, the whole thing. We've been talking about this for several weeks now. And from the perspective of someone taking ground, that's useful. That's very useful. I don't particularly want to give the internal ground to that kind of silliness. But on the overall battlefield, the more the enemy underestimates us, the better it is for the cause. And that's what he always does. He always does that because of his pride and his need to turn the knife, and his need to his own hubris, and to be overly confident. And there are places right now where you can use this as an advantage. Like, hey, Lisa, like yesterday, Lisa, she prayed me out of a thing. It was so cool. And somebody underestimated me because they thought I was a nice guy. And they thought I was going to go along with whatever their thing was and let me just take their whatever. Underestimated me. Guess what? I'm gracious, but I'm not stupid. I got some wear on my tire treads. I'm not going to tell you how many years though. And so sometimes the people that just like they're just taking it, or they're just gracious, or they're just kind. Watch sometimes those people are the people behind the scenes going, just watch me circle back. Watch me take that ground. Watch me go and do this. And this is where we are, right? Right? You may think that I'm just nice little Julie Lavender from Bakersfield, California, and just going to take your crap and just going to whatever, because my modus operandi is not to come out and do your thing, your dominance, your control, your manipulation, or whatever it is, but don't underestimate me. And it's an advantage to be underestimated. So right now, our entire movement is being underestimated. And what do we do under that? We dig in and get busy digging tunnels, creating siege works, creating strategies. What were that's right, Rocket. What did the Maccabees do? And this is why I love Hanukkah so much, more than Christmas in terms of what it teaches. Christmas, I love, the Jesus, of course he came, and the whole thing. But Hanukkah teaches people to resist and take back what is rightfully theirs under overwhelming odds. My friends, we were stolen from. It was wicked, it was evil, it was a psyop, it was propaganda. We were stolen from. That gives us incredible authority in the spirit to gather against a common enemy and demand justice from the King of Kings. What is rightfully yours has been stolen from you. That also gives us the ability to go back and go, if for some reason the righteous judge is allowing them to live with some sort of leash of self-delusion and continued propaganda, how then do we use that for our advantage? Instead of whining and complaining and worrying, we go up to the mountaintop of the high place, which is what God has said, what his truth is, and never letting go, because this is the victory that overcomes the world. Even our faith, the scripture says. The victory is even our faith. So right now we go to the high place where we stand in what? Just some kind of generalized, happy talk? Or we go, no, we know the character of God. We know the principles of God. We know a sincere prophetic revelation when we see it. We have eyes to see. Our mind is being expanded. We're connecting. We're developing relationships. We're activated. We're researching. We're paying attention to different levels of information and intelligence. Mama didn't raise no fool. So go ahead, underestimate us. Go ahead, try to do that. Have fun with that, because we're going up. When the Maccabees withdrew, they had lots of battles, but there was one significant one. And where they went, they withdrew, and everyone's like, oh, these ragtag of people, they'll never get the temple back from us. We're the freaking Greeks, for gosh sakes. After Alexander the Great ruled the world, they were breaking up the known world of that time into different peoples, and different, inheritors were ruling it. And so there was the Greek and the Syrians together, and they were ruling over this part. This was serious giants and religious authority, right, and legal authority. And they had taken over the temple. They put up a statue of Antiochus Epiphanes as God in the holy temple. They sacrificed a pig on the altar. They forced all the kids to wear Greek clothes and to compete in Greek games, which were done half naked, which was not how the Jews comported themselves. There was a psyop, there was a stealing of the kids. They were doing things like, if anybody was caught studying Torah, they were put to death. Their kids could be taken from them and put to death. There were women who jumped from the temple with children because of the persecution. Okay. And where do we get this idea of playing the dreidel from? That was because the Jews would gather in circles and they would share little bits of the Torah to encourage each other. And when the Roman soldiers came around, or the Greek soldiers, sorry, they would pull out these tops and pretend they were gambling. And the soldiers would just say, oh, those Jews, they're good for nothing. They're always gambling. All they want to do is gamble. It was a smokescreen. But they got together and encouraged each other. And then the Maccabees stood up, and it was a long process, okay? But at one point, the big famous battle is the Maccabees withdraw to the mountains. And these massive armies come against them with their siege elephants, and I mean crazy levels. But because the Maccabees had the high ground, they built siege works and did all kinds of things so that stuff came crumbling off the mountain to completely take them off their feet and to destroy the powers and all of the might that they had. They were completely underestimated. And when somebody thinks they can just erase you from culture and just completely remove all your accounts and shut you up and take your pillows out of Kohl's and Bed Bath & Beyond, and they can do all that, what are they doing? They're completely underestimating close to 80 million people and millions of believers around the world praying, the hosts of heaven and the plan of God. Completely, it is a psychologically sick paradigm to think that you've got your billions and your things and you can just rule the world and control like that. It creates such a mental illness, that level of hubris and control and conniving. And so go ahead, underestimate us. Go ahead. You're being underestimated right now. You have things in the fog of war that you can be doing. Strategic relationships, phone calls, political activities, very local, that are important. Outreaches, business plans, creating new ways to connect with people. I was just thinking that I've got this kind of dream of super stealthy trolling ways to get to do things that haven't been thought of before, and how we can make it happen, and how in the fog of this thing, when there's so much self-delusion and the Antiochus Epiphanes, who has set up this altar, in the capital, and is sacrificing the pigs and displaying this thing and shutting everyone down. It's self-delusion, my friends. It's absolute self-delusion. And the more we realize that, the more we say, go ahead, sign your whatever thingies, you know, go ahead, play your games, do your deal. The Maccabees were this underestimated one family of people, one family that stood up and they gathered others. We have way more than that. We have millions of people worldwide who are invested in the success of America as a free country with a legitimate president for the sake of the world, for the sake of the harvest, for the sake of the gospel. They're not giving up. I'm not giving up. You're not giving up. So go ahead, underestimate us. Go ahead, turn the knife. Go ahead. I'm really not impressed. I don't wear a vagina hat and cry out in the streets, and I don't need to light things on fire and shout and scream. I am just digging, taking back what is mine. I am digging, reaching into the fear and doing what the enemy doesn't expect me to do, like when I decided I was going to overcome stage fright. And all the albums and all the work that I've done and everything I do with you here today came from that strategic thing that says, he's telling me the game is over and I should hide in my basement. And God said, no, it's your time. We're taking it back. And everything that I share with you, everything I've done, whatever it is, came in. Obviously, God was planting seeds in my character of relationship with him all those years. But when it really came to dealing with a core issue that terrified and scared me, that was a turning point and set me on a road that has teed up the ball. Love you, Lisa, that for anything I bring forth in the world right now. And I got to tell you, go and itemize your assets in your community. Make a list of assets. Who's on your police department that you trust, that you can have a conversation with? Who's on your local board of aldermen or selectmen? Who's there? What prophetic people are there? What prayer warriors? What groups gather? What happened? Who's activated? Take stock of what you have and then begin to leverage on that, because I'm telling you, no matter what happens nationally, even though I'm very confident, our job is still exactly the same. It's just that if we focus too much on what we can't control there, it'll affect us, and we'll start agreeing that we don't really, poor us, we're so outnumbered. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Did you read the latest headline? Did you see the latest thing they did? My friends, they are filling the cup of wrath. About the guilty. The cup of wrath is being filled. Habakkuk is awesome. Maggie read from that the other day. It's the second or third chapter. It says, woe unto you who makes his nest high in the earth, out of corruption. Woe unto you who steal what is not yours. Woe unto you. And it's in that same thing, that same scripture. It says, but the glory of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. And then it says at the very end of that chapter, go look it up. Habakkuk is not long, so when you find the woes, you're in the right chapter. When you look up the thing that says the glory of the Lord is going to cover the earth as waters cover the sea, the last few verses of that says, I tremble and I wait for the Lord. And then it basically says, because he's doing stuff. This is serious. Don't be thinking. Let's don't underestimate God and the prophets and the voices and the patriots and the generals and 45. Let's don't do that. We don't pin our, all our hopes there. Let's don't do that. Let's take stock of what we have, what's going on, what his promises are, and get to work. And if in the fog of war, when all this is happening, we can be incredibly effective, incredibly stealthy, incredibly go ahead. Yeah. So you think you won, huh? Wow. Okay. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. Tails between our legs. We're hiding out. Yeah. Nothing to see here, folks. We're so scared and terrified. Oh, we're so upset about not being on Twats anymore. Oh, God, that was the end of my life. Listen, I can't wait for the Book of Faces to just disappear, to be honest with you. And there are things bubbling and things changing. So go ahead. Underestimate us. And we're the comeback kids. We are. And we take that high ground of positioning and do things that are unexpected, outrageous, audacious, stealthy. And we move from there, right? So I'm going to play this song for you again because I think it's such an upbeat tune. We need to prophesy into the morning, into the next thing that God is doing. And remember, when you hear this, I did it scared. Every time I opened with this, I was terrified usually when I went to go and perform. But out of this flowed a new mindset and a new hope. So please enjoy Beautiful Morning from my album Interior Design. Let's see. Let's see if we can get it going. Monitor camera. There we go. This is just going to cheer you up. Prophesy this into your life.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got this beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. The cattle are standing like statues. The cattle are standing like statues. They won't turn their heads when they see me walk by. Brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. This beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, the sounds of the earth are like music. The sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy, it don't miss a tree. And an weeping willow is laughing at me. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got this beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day.
Remember, I wrote that and sang that and performed that pretty much terrified. Underestimating myself and God and the gifts in me, but determined that I had no other thing that I needed to do that was more important than get free and reflect who He is. That's where we are. By the way, if you like my albums, you can go to julielavender.com and buy them from me directly, which is the best way. And if you buy an album like that, I'll send you a second CD free, because I have my very first CD, Good Woman, which has the Song for the Sower on it, that I love to share with others. In any event, go do something that causes people. No, go do something that scares you, people might be underestimating you about. Go do it in the stealth, in the fog of war, in the confusion that the Lord is allowing to happen, I think, to confuse the enemy more than us, and to get us activated in unusual and unexpected ways. And I will see you tomorrow.